Welcome to the Tech Story Podcast, a place where we interview founders and interesting people in tech. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Erin Wolfe on the show. Erin is the co-founder of The Curve Club, a private members club exclusively for founders. Erin, thank you for being with us.
Really excited to be here today.
And would you like to please share a bit of background about yourself and The Curve Club?
A little background about myself. So as everyone will quickly tell, I'm American. Moved over from the Bay Area, kind of cut my teeth in working at big tech companies from the likes of Oracle to smaller tech startups. That's actually where I kind of got like the entrepreneurship bug. Ended up working there for 5 years, moving to London 5 years ago, and we started Curve Club 10 months ago.
And what sort of prompted you to start a members club in London for founders?
Right. We get asked this question a lot. So what we realized was we basically took a lot of inspiration from Y Combinator, a lot of inspiration from Soho House, slammed it all together to create Curve Club because we wanted everyone to be ahead of the curve. Mainly being because there's so many founder WhatsApp groups, Slack groups. There's such great inspirations, ideas, like some really cool people out there, which I'm sure you're meeting a lot of. But we found there wasn't like one physical space they were able to meet, and we just wanted to bring everyone together. So that was a big reasoning for it.
That's great. And so you opened the first club in Old Street. What sort of plan for the club, and why should founders listening to the podcast join?
Yeah. Okay. Even better question. You're teeing this up well. So we did get our first building. It was actually originally a firehouse. Then it was Jamie Oliver's 15. I think that's what it was really known for. Then it was like vacant for a little bit. So we took it over, and in a full founder, like gritty way, we just figured out how to make the building profitable before we actually started to look to get members. Because fun fact, when you start a members club, you start with 0 members, 0 revenue, 0 MRR. So we were like, great, how do we like figure out a way to like change the model? Because we ended up meeting with actually one of like the main investors back in the day of like Soho House and whatnot. And they were like telling us around all these things around high overheads, these scary numbers, like risks that you just didn't want to take on, because it was just myself, Rose, and Iona. We're like 3 co-founders. We're all like, Iona's like in her 20s, but Rose in her early 30s. We're like, we don't really want to take on these crazy numbers. So we ended up putting in dark kitchens into the basement. So they went through Deliveroo, Uber Eats to make their revenue and paid us rent. And we rented out the 2 top floors to 2 different tech startups, which was also really fun because it also helped us like improve the network. And then we started hosting like regular founder dinners to kind of create our founding members.
That's great. And I guess, are the dark kitchens still running?
Yeah, so the dark kitchens actually do really well. We ended up getting some really nice like high-end restaurants that were predominantly in West London. So they basically had the full like East London scene that they can like deliver from. That's why originally we decided to do an Italian brand and a Japanese brand, because we're like, people will probably order pizzas, but they might also want to order sushi. So it's kind of a gamble on our front. But the one nice part is we can like rotate them. So let's say if it's not working, or if like people are like, listen, we actually would be interested in this or interested in that, we'd be able to do it. And we normally keep one kitchen open for like different chefs to kind of keep it new, fresh, local talent, different things like that.
And what's sort of the plan for the club the next 3-5 years?
Yeah, biggest plan for the club was, this is going to be a plot twist. We ended up getting our SCIS. So we're technically kind of going as like a closed network for founders with a clubhouse as an added benefit. So we're going to have our first location on Old Street that we're going to be opening up in central London, West London. And after that, we want to expand outside of London. So personally, I think we're thinking New York and LA. Everyone keeps telling us like Lisbon, Dubai. So I think we're going to be hyper focused on like the community where they think they'd find the most value, because for the most part, we were kind of doing this like for the founder journey and like what can kind of support that. So I think we really want to stand by that. That's really important for us. So we'll kind of like grow to the different floors, different things. Like we're trying to we've been letting everyone vote how they'd use each floor. It turns out like our natural instincts is not what we thought people would want. Like for instance, for right now, Old Street's 2 floors downstairs. We thought everyone would want this like really vibey underground restaurant. Turns out everyone just wants a really clean, elevated luxury co-working. So that's what it's going to be now.
I wouldn't have voted for a co-working space, but...
Yeah, we thought it was going to be Club Curve, and turns out not really, so...
Cool. And I guess what do you wish you'd known before starting the Curve Club?
Oh, what I wish I would known before. That's actually a really tough one. I think I actually do like how we went into this really naive, because none of us had like we had joined private members club, but we had no background in like this sort of space. Like all of a sudden we realized like we all came from like B2B tech, like software, all those things. And then so when we went to our model, that's how we kind of looked at it. Like we started looking at things on an MRR basis, like what are the cogs, those things. So we came in it from like a very tech-centric view. So sometimes, but then when you realize it, at the end of the day, you're also in the hospitality business. So something, I mean, it sounds like so obvious to say, but we didn't really even think about those sides of things, like with the kitchens being like, actually, like, this is the revenue we would need from events. This is what we need there. It sounds so obvious to say out loud, but I think our biggest learning curve was when we opened it up. We weren't really sure what to expect because none of us had, my only hospitality background was software as a service, not actually anything else. So before we even hired waiters, I had to step in, had to help. Turns out, didn't know how to twirl the pasta, didn't know how to do those things. Humbling moment, can add us to the resume now. But I think for the most part, so many people told us how to do it and we just didn't listen to them. So I think like, I wish we did almost do a bit more interviews to see like how people launched, what they did, because it turns out we did things completely differently than every other brick and mortar private members club.
Yeah, I guess customer support in SaaS is very different from customer support when you've got a restaurant.
You'd be surprised. Actually, you probably wouldn't be, but we were. Obviously.
Yeah, and I guess, why didn't you listen? Or
I think for us, like, we thought like the beauty of it was we just had such a raw vision. Like, we knew we wanted to support the founder journey. We knew there were like the coolest companies coming out of London. We wanted to bring them together. Like, we already met a couple different founders. They kind of validated the idea. They helped doing like the proof of concepts, like product market fit. Like, we went through that journey. So we were so bullish on it that we were like, well, you guys did it a different way. You took on the risk. You took on the overheads. You didn't do it that way. But at the end of the day, like, they do have a lot of experience. So,
well, being profitable before opening the club is, pretty good. And I'd say not how typical tech people think.
Yeah, but it is tough because when we then went to raise additional funding, everyone kept locking us in. It's just like a real estate company. And we were trying to say like, no, this is what we're doing. This is how we're ahead of the curve. This is how we're using AI. This is what the tech looks like. And no one can, once they see the clubhouse, they're like, you are a real estate company. So that was a bit different.
Yeah, I guess you just need to be careful that you don't become like WeWork.
Exactly. Like, I think people for us, like, plus like you can imagine when you first started to legislate, like how we described ourselves changed like week over week over week. We were moving so quickly that like suddenly some people were like, you're a WeWork. We're like, no, we're not. Some people were like, you're a Soho House. And we're like, no, we're not. So things were getting a bit like convoluted. So I feel like in the beginning, if we put like one stake in the ground and we were like, this is who we were, it would have been hard to do because we were kind of like developing that as it went. I think that would have made a difference.
Yeah, I think, the vision always stays the same when you start direction, but you need to iterate and you speak to clients, speak to investors, they describe the problem better than you, and then you sort of incorporate it.
Exactly. And I think when we first started, for some reason, we decided to do all of our branding with neon. So everyone thought we were like a gaming website. So it was a bit off.
Is there a Web3 angle, or is there still a Web3 angle?
There still is a very gentle one, because we also thought that was like a concept that was like ahead of the curve, something new to London. Didn't really take with too many people, so we went.
Ditching those NFCs and. I
think we'll always have it. Like, we have everything set up. We built it out on the Ethereum blockchain. It makes sense. I think for the people that enjoy it, like, they see it, but it was almost like we bit off too much than we can chew when it was like around like educating all these people on like something completely new that they were like not fully interested in.
Yeah, I did struggle.
Yeah, I was just about to say. So
yeah. Great. And what's been your favorite moment so far?
I think our favorite moment was when we finally had 100 members. I think that was big for us. I think, as you can probably imagine, when you're like growing, when you're scaling, when you kind of like jump off with both feet, when you're like, this is gonna be my full-time job, like I'm gonna leave the security of my 9 to 5, I'm just gonna give that up. I think once we got like, our first 2 like angel investors that we were able to find, and then also like those first members that supported it, they saw the vision. Not only did they saw it, but they supported it, like yourself. That was actually huge for us, because I think in your head it makes sense, but then when other people see it too, it really validates it. So it was really special.
Yeah, when I remember one of my first angels, he gave me his investment as a check.
Yeah.
Pretty, so you give it to me and say, here's X amount, don't use it, don't waste it.
Exactly. And I think like people also gave us so many advice on like, this is how you do this is how you do that. And I think like, I do like how we kind of went through our own way. Like, I'm not saying you should definitely take on advice. That's a gift. Feedback's a gift. All of that's amazing. But it was nice to see like, we had such a direct way that we wanted to do it. People were telling us, no, take the overheads, do it this way, do it that way. And so I'm happy we kind of stuck to what we were thinking. without having that background.
Yeah, great. And the other key or special thing about the Curve Club is it's pretty female co-founders. You know, how have you found that? Has it been sort of, you know, how are the investors approaching you and how are you thriving? Because you're doing great. So, yeah.
I'd say it's actually been like phenomenal so far. I think another big reason why we did this is because a lot of the members clubs in London, a lot of like the larger establishments, they all came from like historically as a gentleman's club. They were all like male founded. They were all like kind of like in that vein. So we were like, why don't we take this on? Why don't we do it? And it's actually been really positive feedback. I'd say like every time when we were doing like, this is technically how we qualified like lead generation is through like our different founder dinners, but we always kept the table like half women, half men. Cause I think we also just wanted to show people like there's a lot of people doing things. I think just not everyone knows where to find those people. So for us to be able to bridge that, then also have like really great feedback was also really rewarding. Cause I think like, yeah, being 3 female founders, it was something we weren't really shouting about because we weren't sure how people would take it. We were sure people would like rally behind it or if they'd be like, bit weird or what it was, but so far it's actually been amazing. So
Great, right. The Curve Club definitely isn't a women's club.
No. Yeah, I think the only thing that happened because the female founders in the name is for some reason people associated Curve Club with something else, and we were like, oh no, we meant like ahead of the curve. So we've had to explain that a couple times. Other than that, dreamy. It's been amazing.
As a busy co-founder, I imagine little legal documents or contracts sort of land on your desk right in front of you.
Yeah.
And what sort of patterns can you tips can you share with other founders?
I think for us, like a big thing is it's like you can't actually like really force someone to pay a subscription. Like if they're saying like, we're not going to pay it. So for instance, it's like if you have a 12-month contract, like I'd say this is like a common one. Like some people might want to come in and do something. I'd say like the biggest feedback I'd give is just like understanding like what are your different, just make sure you have like a clear route of like what are your next steps, like how far are you willing to go, like what makes sense, like first time versus value, which is just a really basic thing to say, but for us that's kind of what we had to figure out. Not that we've had like too many, but we'll never forget like one person was like, we want to cancel. We're like, why? Like but we're obviously you're gonna see attrition in any company, and I think for us it was like, especially from the legal side, it's really hard to like keep someone potentially in like a 12-month contract if they're not going to pay it.
Yeah, you need to obviously make sure that the termination rights and clauses are clear.
Exactly.
And then even if they are clear and the consumer is, saying particular, then customer's always right.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're on the Tech Story podcast. So what is your favorite tech product?
My favorite tech product? Ooh, we see a lot. So I'd say from, let's see, any specific category in tech that you're interested in?
Software, hardware, anything.
All right, that's an interesting one. I'd say not favorite, most used in the beginning software was Notion. I feel like everyone here probably knows about that. It was, it's been great for everything. I'd say we're using the Dots for our apps. Like that was also great. I think figuring that out. We live and breathe in test flight. And I'd say actually something recently, we had a really fun founder dinner. I just started using Her, which was like a fashion, like eco-friendly sustainability, like circular fashion app, which has been phenomenal. So instead of like, you can like feel green, you can help with that. Turns out there's lots of people in that space, but it's become like a new favorite for us. And we also found like another system that does the same thing, but for furniture and rentals. So you can actually like start going green with a lot of things, because we're trying to like really go big on sustainability for like obvious reasons. So
really interesting. I hadn't heard of Her, and I mean Notion is a tool that we've only recently discovered at Legislate. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I was trying to like think of like the basics and like a fun one.
Yeah. No, I mean, but with Notion, we're sort of rebuilding our template editor, but we're rebuilding it as Notion basically. So and blogs and.
I will say for like the geeky side, for us to like work out like our different databases where you pull things from, how do you read into things, Notion's actually been the dream. So
great. And what one piece of advice would you give to a prospective founder listening to the episode?
One piece of advice that I would give them is build your board. Like those people that support you, they're valuable. I think for us, like we had such a strong group of people that had been founders before. And I think like we owe a lot of our success to them because their wisdom was like invaluable, like their perspective, like none of them had also like a background in the industry that we're now operating on. But I would say surrounding yourself with I'm a big believer that you're an average of those that you surround yourself with. So I'd say like building those people that are like rooting for you, fighting for you. Like we always joke in the office, there's like up roller coaster days and down roller coaster days. It's like, they're going to bring you right back up. They're going to celebrate your wins. And when you're on that trajectory down, they can kind of help you like steer it on the other way. So that's a big one.
And then how do you find them? How
do we find them? I'd say some we kind of reached out to, where it's one of those things where you're like, you wanted a mentor. Some you just naturally do. I think like, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help. Like the founder community in London especially is like really small. So I think we ended up just being really lucky with like the high quality people that we ended up finding ourselves with. Like one of them was, the co-founder of the Dark Kitchens company, and that helped us like putting Dark Kitchens in Curve Club. Like one of them was like Rosie's co-founder, who like first company was Fat Llama, and he also was just like, he just like knew how to figure things out and spin things in a way where you all of a sudden you just saw a solution where before it was like murky waters and you were like, where is the product market fit? And they kind of help you like soundboard, get things through. So that's been great.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The community in London is, well, it's big, but approachable, and you can definitely just meet people, join clubs like the Curve Club, and build your network, and then build your board.
Yeah, and it was a big reason why we were like, maybe we'll do Curve Club, because I think everyone should be able to do that. I think everyone should be able to meet the different people they need to meet. I think like it just makes such a big difference if you're building a business, because it's a really hard thing to do alone. Because I think if I didn't have co-founders, Curve Club would not be what it is today.
Well, I'm a solo founder, but I have, my leadership and they like my co-founder.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Erin, for being on the podcast, and best of luck growing Curve Club.
Thank you. And thank you for your support. We love Legislate.